Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to you on behalf of APAC News Network at another edition of APAC Dialogue. Before we introduce our guest who's here on the hot seat today, briefly to reintroduce again, APAC News Network is a media organization headquartered out of Noida with pan India presence and also presence across South Asia and the Middle East. And we primarily focus on how technology is implemented across different verticals like governance, education, healthcare, BFSI, manufacturing, the startup ecosystem, and as well as the SMEs. So today we have with us Mr. Manish Mohta, MD of Learning Spiral, with us, an edutech company, and he will enlighten us about one, obviously, the learning spiral solutions and how they are being leveraged in the education sector, and also give us some general direction about the education roadmap and the role technology is playing there. Maybe the best way to start would be, Manish, if you can take us through the genesis of Learning Spiral, a brief history on how the company came about and what you are exactly doing.
Uh, Thank you, and a very good afternoon to the viewers. I would, start by saying that Learning Spiral is, on a mission to add 2 billion learning hours to the academic calendar of the country. And the way we look at it is that in our country, whenever there are examinations and assessments, whether it is semester exams or whether it is the degree exams, at that time the colleges are shut. There is no learning happening, there is no teaching happening, and the whole apparatus is just too occupied, too burdened by the conduct of these exams. And some of the times these examinations in a semester will take 2 months or 2.5 months from this beginning of the activity to the actual results. And for all of this time there is no teaching happening, there is no learning happening, and it just goes for a into the administrative burden of conducting of the examinations. So at Learning Spiral, we had we were on a mission to reduce the test through transcript time by close to 60 to 70%. So what earlier used to take a university of moderate size of 2 lakh students or something, say 45 to 50 days, we would with our solutions be able to reduce it to something like 20 days or 15 to 18 days. And by that means, the burden is reduced, and most importantly, the academic calendar, you are able to maintain it, because suddenly you have got 2 3 extra months which was earlier not existing. So the whole the mission has been that to positively impact, you cannot create great teachers, but can we free the teachers from the burden of all of these activities? So by making these examinations efficient, transparent, and fast, that's how the Learning Spiral is wanting to impact the higher education sector.
Okay, thank you. So that sounds great. Maybe if you can take us in more detail through what are these solutions and how exactly do they function?
So within our portfolio, we have couple of products. So one of them is Smart Exam, the other one is You Can Assess, and both of these work in tandem to be able to take the journey of a student from enrollment right up till graduation, and all of the means of assessments, irrespective of the type, whether it is practical, there is external evaluation, there could be a project submission, there could be subjective answers, there could be also proctored assessments, take from home examinations under AI proctoring with invigilation, with AI recording and view. All of it can be mix and matched, because in our higher education you cannot have just one type of exams, so you will have a whole mixture of exams. So irrespective of the mode of assessments, mode of examinations, you can conduct them all in a very smooth and integrated fashion, so that all of these scores come together in a centralized way to be able to create analytics, to be able to create a dashboard, and to of course create the mark sheets and graduation cards. So these two products help a university or a higher education establishment to be able to manage the student life cycle, manage the learning outcomes, assess the students on learning outcomes, and at the same time be able to do it efficiently, transparently, secured, and fast.
Great. You mentioned about this mix and match kind of model, especially as exams are also of different types in our higher education. I have two queries regarding that. One, you mentioned you are using analytics, but even to effectively leverage analytics or use it, you need a huge amount of standardization. So our assessment pattern, while even universities will have their different academic curricula and their assessment will be synchronized with their academic curricula. So how do that first that standardization happens so that analytics can be better leveraged? That is one part of the question. And the second part of the question is, if we look back at the last couple of years during the pandemic, when the entire learning has happened from home remotely, even the assessment pattern has fundamentally changed from the normal patterns that was used to be followed in the in-person model. So how again in this mix and match model, you sort of this remote assessment procedures, how are they factored in?
So, first about the standardization. So, obviously, when we look at, any kind of analytics, then it is important to be clear what question you want to answer. So, in the way we leverage analytics, there are three questions to be answered. One question is about how we are faring on the curriculum front. Another question is how we are faring at a geography or an organizational level. And the third one is that how we are faring at a platform level. If you look at the geography or organization level, so a typical state university would have affiliated colleges spread over a geography. So if you are able to leverage the analytics to be able to find the learning gaps at a topic level, at a subject or a paper level, you are able to identify the weak links at these schools or colleges, and those weak links can then become actionable. The controller of exam can even can instruct the college that these are the areas where you need to improve your faculty, otherwise the course curriculum is not being effectively covered. At the same time, the analytics is being leveraged for seeing the pacing of the curriculum. So, you talked about online assessment. So, even with the COVID being over, colleges being open, a lot of the universities that where we are working with, the online assessments have become a part of continuous assessment methodology. So in a continuous assessment, apart from the semester exam, there are four other assessments which are done for each paper or subject. And those four assessments are conducted in a online mode, because obviously you cannot do so many assessments in any other methodology. So in a proctored online manner, you can easily do a large scale assessment. 1 lakh students, 1.5 lakh students could happen in 1 or 2 days, and as a result of that you could complete your assessments within 2 days framework, and that becomes the part of continuous assessment. So for doing that effectively, you need to tag your question bank against the topics, against the difficulty levels, and against the the marks that you want to award. So the three of them put together, and there is a statistical analysis which can happen post the exam, which helps in the standardization. So maybe the pre-facto categorization was something that this question is difficult, but the post-facto categorization based on that the top student cohort is identified. You know that these are the toppers of the student. Now, if they have got certain questions wrong, they are difficult level. If they have got something at 50% have got it right or wrong, that's the medium level. So you can do a standardization based on the statistical analysis post the assessment, and that is beautifully done, and done batch after batch. Within a question of 3 or 4 semesters, you are able to get decent quantity of data to be able to say that yes, this is a representative sample, and you are fairly close to assessing the learning outcome. So therein the whole cycle becomes repetitive, and you could use that question bank for similar universities across the state. So with this use, you are able to meet your standardization. Regarding online proctored assessments during the COVID time, of course, students were at home, and there the dual challenge was that you had to conduct the exams without compromising the security of the exam. You didn't want people to resort to unfair means, so that the scores were representative of what their actual learning was. So both of this was very easily, and I would say in a very successful manner, done by our organization at a large number of universities. So we've conducted more than 24 lakh assessments, and those assessments have been all in proctored mode, sometimes even with two devices, wherein you can get nearly 300 degrees view of the student, one from the front, one from the rear. Even admission exams have happened on the proctored methodology. So central universities nationwide, exam for entrance has happened on proctored mode, and some of them have renewed these contracts even moving forward. So I think the online proctored assessments have a big role to play in both continuous as well as high stake exams, and that's what is the trend that we are seeing.
Okay. So the I understood the online proctored mode that you talked about, and also earlier the sampling of the data for the um, standardization, where you are mentioning both the pre-facto and the post-facto. One more challenge here I see. Again, even within a particular university itself, assessment is often both subjective as well as objective. And it's basically a combination of two. So when you mention mix and match, and this in many cases that subjectivity often depends on the human element, the human part of the assessor, the examiner or assessor. So, how does that get factored in, that both that objectivity and subjectivity, so that what I might assess a particular answer at a certain time frame can differ even when I do it at a different time, and between different examiners, it might differ. So, how do you factor that in this standardization?
So, positively, subjective exams bring a different kind of a challenge, because essay type answers have, different teachers will evaluate it with different yardsticks. And one of the reasons, one of the methodology of reducing that is, of course, explaining to the teachers what is the rubrics, what is the standard answers, and what is the marks that they need to put across it. Even after that, we find that there is discrepancy. Some teachers might assess in a different manner, because there could be a misalignment of interests. So the how technology helps over there is that in our system, these evaluations are happening on screen. So these scripts are available on the screen, and on the screen the evaluation is happening. So suppose 10 scripts were awarded to teacher A, and teacher A has finished evaluation of certain number of them. Out of these 10 scripts, the system picks out a particular sample, that could be 1, 2, or 3, depending upon how rigorous the university wants it. Then these 3 go to a different teacher set, and teacher A and teacher B don't know whether these scripts are a second evaluation that they are doing, or whether it is the first evaluation that they are doing. So it is all happening in an incognito mode. So you will get 10 scripts, but 3 of them would actually be something which teacher B has evaluated. So you are able to get 2 data points. And if we find that particular teachers are evaluating the same question with a lot of variation, and usually 10-15% variation is acceptable at university levels. But beyond that, this goes to a third senior evaluator, and as a result of that, this quality check process ensures that even subjective assessments through the digital evaluation mode are more reliable, more accurate, and more representative than earlier possible. So earlier, manually, you would not be able to do that because of the logistics of moving these scripts. So you can't do that kind of sampling at that speed. But here you could do that sampling with speed, and the system has already got it identified that these are expert teachers, these are okay teachers. So more sample is being drawn from okay teachers, less from the senior teachers, and you are able to get a good quality of evaluation done even for the subjective answers.
Great. Okay. So now we come to more company specific question in terms of you mentioned about both the products in the beginning and the universities and other institutions of higher learning. So, what sort of business model do you follow, and what sort of go-to-market initiative or strategy is there?
So the business model is quite simple. So our charges are for the usage of our application on a SaaS model, and the most of the charges are on a per student basis. Online exams, etc., are on per assessment basis. So that's the model that we have been working successfully with. So it's usually the higher education institute or the board which pays for the application usage, because they find that it plays a critical role for them to be able to manage all of this with the level of service and with the level of quality that they would want their name attached to. Plus, it provides the students a fairly efficient way to interact for all administrative needs with the university, and also their academic needs are well covered. So the business model is quite clear from that perspective.
And if I may ask, which are some of the marquee institutes or universities who are already using your solutions, and if you can elaborate on the use cases, how they are using that.
So, we engage with a large number of quite prestigious universities. More than 30% of the central universities are our clients. Big names such as Banaras Hindu Vishwavidyalaya, Jamia Millia Islamia in Delhi, the National Institute of Fashion Technology, the 1718 campuses. They conduct their admissions using our applications, the assessment, etc. The Delhi School of Entrepreneurship and Knowledge, which has just got formed, they are using our services. Many technical universities, such as the Bikaner Technical University, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, which is the University of Technology for the state of West Bengal. So all of these universities are using our solutions. They have, over a period of 2 or 3 years, totally transformed their manual processes, and they could claim to be a digitally transformed university with all of their processes working in the cloud online. Even down south in Tamil Nadu and in Karnataka, the University of Mysore, which is a very well established and prestigious university there. So these are all some of our clients, and whom we have been servicing for multiple years now.
So, regarding the go-to-market model I mentioned, how do you reach out to these universities? What's the marketing mechanism that you follow?
So typically, we want to engage with these universities on their journey for digital transformation. So whether they are conferences, or there are research papers and discussion forums. So these are our means of interacting with them, as well as be able to explain the benefits of the solutions that we are proposing. And plus, being in the assessment and the high stakes exams game, a lot of the marketing happens by our happy clients themselves, because this is a trust game. Because finally, when you are choosing an assessment partner, you are also choosing a partner who is responsible for keeping the sanctity of your brand, because the exams and the degrees are your brand image. And if those exams and assessments, or in the case of admissions, the admission exams, their sanctity, the assessment agency is responsible for maintaining the sanctity of that brand. So trust and the brand value of what you associate with that trust, that plays a big role. And of course, word of mouth and the good references that our existing clients give to their other friends and peers in the education fraternity. So that's the most important thing for us, because that's something that we pride ourselves about, because we aim to deliver assessments, high stake exams with efficacy as well as security.
So earlier you mentioned also in many cases, in many of these universities and institutions, even the teachers or the examiners would need reorientation. How do you ensure that reorientation happens with the teacher? What's the roadmap for that?
So for almost all of these implementations, there's all of the stakeholders. So there would be the university examination cell, there would be the academic cell, and then there would be these faculties spread across affiliated colleges, or within their own campus in their own departments, who become part of the stakeholders, and they need to be all trained. So over a period of 2.5 or 3 years, where the digital transformation journey is on for a particular institute or a university, you need to engage with them, you need to do small pilots in their departments, explain to them how things work in this new paradigm, and within that they are able to take it up. So you can't launch it in a establishment in a big bang approach. It doesn't work. So you need to take these stakeholders into confidence, one by one, and over a period of a year or something, you are able to see results, because people get familiar with it. They don't think that this is an alien solution which will not work in their environment, because they've seen some of their smaller pilots working sufficiently well, that being successful. So it's very important to get these success stories in place. And of course, for things like rubrics and how to evaluate and how the evaluation works in this paradigm, tagging of the question items for learning outcomes, etc., that requires training. So you need to have these exercises, and you need to have a certain group of faculty is usually identified by these institutes to lead this change, who are little more, let me say, liberal in their approach, or more accommodating in to adopt technology. So those people help in the whole exercise.
But here you mentioned that these are started through smaller pilots and gradually over a year or so. Does that mean during this transition phase, an institution or an university will have multiple assessment methods, while certain teachers are getting reoriented towards this model? They will have their traditional model also running parallelly. Doesn't that create some sort of contradiction in the overall assessment pattern?
So usually you are able to pick courses. So instead of trying to do it, at semester or something, you usually pick up courses. So you will have some postgraduate courses or some certificate courses which might be smaller in number, and which might be under the same department. And then that course, getting transformed, all of the processes becoming digital. What is the changes that they see before and after? Are they seeing any difference? Those things fairly make the faculty and the departments familiar with the whole thing, and they know that yes, this is working perfectly all right. Then you can pick up the largest student classes or the student courses. So in that pecking order, you can plan out your pilots without creating a mixture within a course. Definitely within a particular same curriculum, you cannot do that. But thankfully in our country, most institutions are offering different courses. So the moment they're offering different courses, there will be different sized student cohorts. So you can pick one which is smaller in number, start with a pilot there, get a quick success, and then immediately move to a bigger one, and soon everybody gets the confidence that yes, we can do all of us.
Okay. That's looks a viable way to go about. But typically, since you are working with a lot of prestigious institutions you already mentioned, as far as the institutions in India, I'm talking about both the government universities as well as the private universities. While digitization has been the norm, especially accelerated by the COVID thing, however, what are the challenges still in leveraging more technology for assessment? Where do you see the sort of hesitancies which still exist? What are those challenges?
So, our country is a land of contrasts, when you look at, the whole geography, you will find pockets where, students are agitating that, we don't want online exams. And then again, suddenly you will find another university in very close geography, you will find that students are agitating, they want online exams. So, there are so many factors which play a role in our country. And local leadership and all of everybody, higher education being a public and mass facing institute. So all of these things, create a conundrum, they create all kinds of things, an ambience. So all of these challenges with these stakeholders, with this, getting all of these stakeholders to come into a consensus that this is the direction we are headed in, that's the usual challenging thing, where the vision of the administration, vision of the honorable vice chancellor or the chairman of the institute, those play a critical role. They need to be clear where they are headed, why they are headed there, and what is the value attached to it. So that is why in our country, national institute of fashion technology can do a two device proctored exam pan India without any legal challenge, anything. And yet you find that another institute with very less numbers, they are struggling. People are saying we don't have one device, also we don't even have a mobile phone. It looks quite odd at a particular stage. So all of these kind of nuances are there in the decision making in our country. And to be able to tide over and take your boat from one end to the other end, within these kind of waves which are going on, is usually the challenge. And I don't think it's the technology which is the challenge, or the ability of the technology to deliver the challenge. It's more about the management being convinced the direction that they are headed in. Those ideas, once it is clear, I think implementation can be far smoother and far faster. But getting all of these stakeholders to form a consensus is the challenging and the tricky part.
Okay. So, in fact, these nuances that you talked about, and one of these challenges, one of the reason, as you mentioned, in such a diverse country, is even our socio-economic condition varies from geography to geography, and even within geography, maybe from different strata. So my question there is, while universities can adopt this, one, it comes at a cost for the university, and very likely it gets passed on to the students. So again, students coming from different socioeconomic strata. So how is that economically viable? That is one part, and second, also you mentioned. But since I would, my question was that even the mobile or the technology available with all the students are not uniform. So will that pose a challenge? But this is more the assessment part, I understand. But definitely the economics. How do you ensure that part?
So let me reframe the situation to you. In our country, you have these higher education institutes which are prestigious, and they are located at location A. And you have a large student population which might be located remotely. So the challenge is bigger if you want to spread closer and bring it next to the neighborhood of that student. The challenges are of building the infrastructure, building the roads, building so many things, because all of that does not exist in the hinterland of our country. Alternately, the amount of challenge to build internet connectivity or to build internet facility is lesser. So that's the contrast. Accessibility for that student, what does he need to do? Either he will have to travel, move away from his house, go to a different city, try to do things in that different city. In the case of an exam, he will have to go to a different center, because definitely in the village there is no center. So he has to travel somewhere. He will stay there for 2 days. He will stay in a hotel. If he's of a younger age, somebody might accompany him. He will his parent or guardian will accompany him. They will stay for 3 days. They'll be traveled to and fro. So it's not that expenditure is not happening. They are used to this expenditure, so it looks like, this is what we have to do. But on the contrary, if you want to today hire a mobile phone for half an hour, that I need this mobile phone for half an hour for 3 days because I need to give my exams. The cost of doing that hiring, because those mobile phones are available. There are enterprising people available in our villages who are ready to lend the mobile phone also. And our country is enterprising. So you can hire this mobile phone, get your infrastructure in place, and you are good to go at a lesser cost as compared to the cost of going to the center, travel, staying over there, and then giving the exam and then coming back. So often the economics, are you if you do the total cost, you find that the total cost is not really as damaging as perhaps envisaged for. Still, as I told you, decision making is nuanced. So sometimes the university is prescribed by us that you reduce 100 rupees to 100 rupees from your exam fees for to introduce this, so that the internet cost, you can say, that is covered by it. So you can do the top up 100 200 rupees, you will get enough top up for you to last for your assessments or examinations, and that gives the nuanced decision making a back foot, that yes, everything is well taken care. So you have to look at it in the holistic total cost of ownership context. And therein you will find that almost all of our solutions actually end up saving money for the university. So when they will find that, the cost of holding the continuous assessments using their physical methodology with printing of the question paper or printing of the answer booklets, then the transportation, and then the transportation back for evaluation, and then for archival of those answer scripts, suddenly you find that the digital evaluation mechanism is cheaper. Overall it is cheaper, because the TADA you will pay, or the allowance you will give to the teachers for coming, going, for getting all of them into a centralized place, all of those are costs which you are incurring. So end of the day, on a total cost of ownership, we will end up saving you money. So this is not going to be a net cost increase. Most financial controllers love us because they know that we are going to decrease the budget outgo of the university overall.
So, are there plans to, beyond universities, look at K 12 and the schools also, the boards, the school boards, for the assessment?
Positively, we are working with school boards. In fact, one of the largest school boards in our country, Tamil Nadu School Board, which is close to, I think, 30 lakh students appear for their board exams. So these are the kind of boards that we are engaged with. We are also engaged with large recruitment boards and bodies such as the public service commissions of a couple of states, the teachers recruitment board, the school service commission. So all of these, plus competitive examination boards in a variety of states. So all of them are availing our services for assessments, whether proctored or digital assessments in some manner. Plus question banks plays a big role these days, because as I told you, standardization, tagging of the question banks, auto generation of question papers, so that even one teacher does not know which questions will appear in the paper. All of these play a critical and important role, and we are able to engage at so many dimensions with recruitment bodies as well as the large school boards in our country.
Okay, so lastly speaking, if we look ahead for the next 3 to 4 quarters, which are going to be your key focus areas in terms of new products, expansion, other services, or new business model, whatever the focus areas?
So the key focus areas for this year is that, we found that a lot of these higher education institutes are also struggling with the learning management systems. They have tried their hands with some open source, some Moodle, something they have tried to do, but now they have matured enough and they are looking for a more comprehensive solution which can help them actually act as a supporting system for the classroom based teaching which is happening. So it's a hybrid kind of a scenario which exists in higher education in our country. So you will have the classrooms playing a role, you will have the lectures being delivered, plus they want these learning management systems which are tightly integrated with their existing systems. And over and above that, learning analytics, as I told you, with the three flavors, whether it is at organization geographic level or curriculum level or at assessment quality level, all of these are one of the missing pies in almost any of the digitization stories at the various universities. So these analytics and these dashboards do not exist with the decision makers in the higher education establishments. And so that's the twin focus areas that we have identified. Because with these analytics, with the data being put into the cloud on the AWS, we are an AWS senior track specialized in education. And we truly believe that once you put all of this data into a data lake, you are able to then come into a position that perhaps you could also do trend analysis, you could do some forecasting, and you could train a AI algorithm to forecast that which students are actually likely to succeed, who is likely to get admission, and so on and so forth. So it's very critical, and these are the focus areas that we are focusing on, that try to migrate all of the data into data lakes, create effective data analytics and learning analytics for universities to act upon, and also be able to deliver on their requirements of a learning management system which can be tightly integrated with their other applications which are currently running.
Okay. Thanks a lot. That was very insightful and very interesting also. And I'm sure for many of our viewers who watched it live or will be watching on YouTube subsequently, they can look at implementing this in their institutions. And both we are connected with higher education universities as well as the schools. So definitely, this solution can prove to be useful for many of them. Thanks for taking out time and really wishing you a good day.
Thank you, sir. And I think it was a very interesting conversation that we had today. And I
Sure.
look forward to more interactions of this nature.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you.